The P-38 Lightning is one of the most iconic American fighters of World War II. It flew across the skies of Europe, the Pacific, and the Mediterranean. But in the Pacific theater, it became a true legend, thanks to the man who would become America's top ace, Major Richard Bong. This particular aircraft, a P-38J with serial number 210-3993, carried not only the firepower of a twin-engine interceptor, but also a very personal touch, the famous Marge pin-up poster, dedicated to Bong's fiancée. This Tamiya kit, number 123, is truly a masterpiece of engineering. From the very start, everything fits perfectly. It's a model that builds like a dream. I began, as always, with the cockpit. The details are excellent straight out of the box, but I wanted to push it further. I added styrene strips for extra details, and even recreated the oxygen hose with coiled wire to mimic its corrugated look. I used fine copper wire to simulate electrical cabling behind the instrument panel and along the side consoles. The pilot seat was operated with fine mold harnesses, appropriate for U.S. Army Air Force fighters of this period, an addition that gives the cockpit a natural, realistic finish. The radio section behind the pilot seat was also detailed with more copper wire to bring it to life. And when it came to the clear canopy parts, Tamiya's quality really shines. Perfect clarity with no need for filler. For the interior color, I used Vallejo Model Layer 10 interior green, applied in thin layers until coverage was smooth. Tamiya decals were added, though they can be a bit thick, requiring several coats of decal softener to conform properly. To weather the cockpit, I applied a general filter using Vallejo Model Color Burnt Umber, followed by washes in darker tones. Instrument panels were painted in Vallejo Black Gray, highlighted with neutral gray for dry brushing. And for metallic scratches, I used an AK Interactive aluminum pencil. Finally, I added dust effects with Vallejo Iraqi sand, recreating the look of aircraft exposed to tropical airstrips. The wheel wells were another area where I added detail using copper wire and styrene. I chose to paint them in Tamiya XF53 neutral gray, highlighted with lighter tones to enhance depth. Filters with Vallejo German Camouflage Black added both dirt and shadow. Canvas covers inside the nose gear bay were painted burnt umber with lighter highlights for contrast. The most important stage was achieving a convincing natural metal finish. I primed the model with Tamiya X1 gloss black lacquer, which not only reveals imperfections, but also provides the ideal base for metallic paints. For the main surface, I used AK Interactive Extreme Metal Aluminum, building up the shine gradually. Panels were barred with dark aluminum and white aluminum to capture the tonal differences visible in real aircraft photos. The anti-glare panel was painted Tamiya XF62 Olive Drab, applied with subtle variations in opacity. For the red areas, the nose, tail surfaces, and propeller spinners, I use Vallejo Air RLM 23 Red, and for decals, I apply them directly onto the glossy metallic finish without a clear coat, one of the great advantages of extreme metal paints. One unique touch: the aircraft serial numbers on Bong's lining were partially overpainted in a rough way. Tamiya included decals for both versions, and I chose the repainted look to stay faithful to the reference photos. To add depth, I applied diluted washes of Vallejo German camouflage black, always in the direction of airflow. This technique not only highlights panel lines, but also shifts tone subtly, simulating the natural variation of aluminum panels. For the olive drab anti-glare panel, I used AK watercolor pencils in metallic and earthy tones to create scratches, streaks, and worn areas. External fuel tanks were weathered heavily with sand and dust tones. Since these were handled on the ground and often refilled directly on their runways. Pigments and washes with Iraqi sand and burnt umber recreated this effect convincingly. One of the lining's most striking features are the exposed turbochargers. I painted them with Tamiya red-brown as a base, then layered pigments and watercolor pencils to simulate burnt metal. The exhaust stains running along the booms were carefully airbrushed with a highly thin mix of wooden deck tan and red-brown, creating that sandy brown exhaust characteristic of bare metal linings. With all the weathering complete, I added landing gear, propellers, antennas, and replaced the gun barrels with aftermarket parts from master models, airbrushed in dark aluminum for realism. Finally, rigging was done with Ushi van der Rosten elastic line. At this stage, the lining really came alive on the workbench. Building this P-38J was a joy from start to finish, and it remains one of the highlights in my collection. It's not just about the technical side of the model. It's about bringing back to life an aircraft that played a vital role in one of the hardest theaters of World War II, and honoring the memory of Richard Bong and the men who flew in those conditions. What do you think about this project? Which World War II ace or aircraft would you like me to feature in a feature build? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And please subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching, and see you next time here on Scale Legacy, where history lives in every detail.